One of the most punchable faces in Hollywood right now. Welcome to episode 14 of The Idiot's Odyssey. I'm Eoin Murphy.
And I'm Fergal O'Connor.
And these are our headlines.
Sony wants pictures of Spider-Man, and they have a list of men for the job. Disney say they parted ways amicably with Josh Trank, and there's no way he trashed the Millennium Falcon. The Assassin's Creed team is taking a leap of faith in September, and new footage has surfaced showing The Rock versus an earthquake. Plus, on the off chance you don't have an opinion of your own by now, we'll be reviewing the Avengers at the end of the podcast. Avengers Age of Ultron, not the other one. So, first off, there's been a whole bunch of Spider-Man related news this week.
Yeah.
Okay, the director shortlist has leaked from Sony, and it's kind of awesome. Like, it's not completely awesome, but it's pretty awesome.
It's kind of like, you can tell this is going to be taking place in high school.
Yeah.
That's fair
Well,
enough.
it's like, it definitely sets a tone, because all of these guys, well, actually, just the facts first, I guess. These are the names on the shortlist. So, we've got Jared Hess, the writer and director of Napoleon Dynamite, and Don Verdeen. John Francis Daly and Jonathan M. Goldstein, the writing and directing duo behind the Vacation reboot. Jason Moore, the dude who directed Pitch Perfect. Ted Melfi, writer and director of St. Vincent. And Jonathan Levine, writer and director of 50-50, Warm Bodies, and All the Boys Love Mandy Lane.
Okay, so that's... Of course, I suppose we'd be remiss if we didn't point out the obvious fact that there was very little actual action movies, like directors in there.
Yeah, but I feel like...
Yeah,
there's machinery in place for that stuff. It's like when Kenneth Branagh came on board with Marvel to do Thor. I mean, Kenneth Branagh had no real action experience. Jonathan Levine, I get the impression... Like, 50-50 was...
a buddy comedy with a heart.
Yeah, I hate saying the words cancer comedy, but like that's
why I use the other word.
But that's really what it was. I mean, like, it was a huge, I think, not necessarily huge risk.
An emotional comedy.
Yeah, but they managed to approach a subject that was very delicate and do it right, in terms of not pissing anyone off, but simultaneously not feeling like they were pandering.
Yeah, which is a tricky, I suppose, thing. The issue is, like, well, it's not an issue. It's just a kind of, you can kind of feel the way they're going to go with it from, like, purely from this shortlist. In that you will feel like that they're going to be we knew they were going to be in high school, right? And you can kind of feel that there's going to be these weird, awkward relationships between Peter and everyone else. But I suppose that is the way that Peter Parker's character is written.
It's if you consider the character of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I mean, like, he's always the kind of quipping and not going to kill anyone kind of character. This director shortlist has come out. I'm actually quite happy about it.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of see my concerns, but I wouldn't be discouraged, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's I feel like if they'd hired a director with an action pedigree, I would actually be quite nervous.
Yeah, because there is a significant amount of heart to Spider-Man's story.
Yeah, it's we know that the action is going to be handled reasonably well. I mean, it's in good hands-ish. Now that Marvel's on board and we don't have
there is that they're not going to try and make it another romantic drama like Amazing Spider-Man 2 was, apparently.
Yeah,
which apparently, if you view it in that, it wasn't that bad for that kind of genre.
It was that bad.
For that kind of genre, apparently it was alright in that, but I didn't view it in that kind of angle, so...
Yeah. Look, whatever angle you viewed it from, it looked like Sony waving their arse at you, basically. And Sony does not have a pretty arse.
Well, this ultimately ended up as Sony waving a big white flag.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, but nonetheless, let's hope that they've learned from the mistakes of the past. I think they've got a fantastic list of talent here, and it gives me hope that their approach with this is going to be sort of humanistic but comedic, which seems kind of perfect, really.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
And speaking of the talent, they also not only have they got...
Actually, just a quick heads up. We're going to be making a segue here, and we're going to have to talk about child actors. I'm sorry.
Yes, we're all very sorry. Uh, but yeah, they've got their director. They've got their director shortlist, but they've also got their actual actor for Peter Parker. Or well, they've got a shortlist of that as well.
Yeah, it's down to 2 now.
Down to 2, and the 2 are Tom Holland, who appeared in with Ewan McGregor in The Impossible, and Asa Butterfield, who was in Ender's Game, and was also in Hugo, the Martin Scorsese Hugo.
Yeah.
Well,
child actors.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, they're not child actors because they're both 18, even though they look like nearly prepubescent, especially Butterfield. Who, by
I'm
the
pretty
way,
certain that someone faked those ages so that they don't have to go by the laws for using kids in films.
by the way, we may end up cutting this, but does Butterfield not have like one of the most punchable faces in Hollywood right now?
I can't remember Butterfield's face, actually. Okay, we're back. We just looked at pictures of Asa Butterfield, and it's weird because on the one hand, I really want to punch him, but on the other hand, he looks 13, and it's like, if I hit a 13-year-old, I'm going to go to prison. On the other hand, the other kid who doesn't look punchable, Tom Holland, was the voice of Locke's kid in Locke.
Of course, the thing is that was like just one. I assume he has a very small part, like.
He was responsible for a lot of the feels in the film.
Okay.
But admittedly, it was his vocal performance.
So, yeah, it seems that's kind of important as well, because a lot of Spider-Man's, interactions with people, he does tend to talk.
Yeah, that's good, actually, yeah, because he has talked through the mask, exactly.
Exactly, yeah. But they both do have a very good acting pedigree so far, even despite their young age.
Yeah, but all I'm saying is that Tom Holland is my horse in this race, because after...
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there.
Yeah, after what he did in Locke, it was...
Also, I do feel that seeing as that Ender's Game had such mixed reviews, that you would kind of say, like,
it's like actors can't really be held responsible.
Yeah, I know,
for
but
the
at the same
overall
time, whereas
film.
Holland hasn't pegged the shitter yet.
Yeah. So, remember how the second Star Wars standalone film used to have a director?
Yeah, we were all talking about him. He just finished directing Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Oh man, like.
Yeah, it turns out it doesn't have a director anymore. Anyway.
Yeah, because he missed the Star Wars celebration because he had the flu, and like this isn't too much of a surprise, but it's still a huge kind of like damn moment,
Yeah, I mean, like Josh Trank, there have been so many rumors
there have been
going
so
around
many
about
rumors,
him lately.
so many rumors now. Emphasis on the rumors.
Yeah,
like there
these
was
are
like the whole
rumors
thing that he like trashed his hotel room or something.
Yeah, so basically these are all rumors, like the rumor that he trashed his house, and the rumor that they had to get someone else to finish Fantastic
there was
Four.
the rumor that like he didn't finish the reshoots, or he didn't bother with the editing for Fantastic Four, and so Matthew Vaughn had to come in for it.
Which is the best possible way that story could end.
Pretty decent safe hands, yeah. And what's the bullshit that he actually said, like that he actually claimed, like, or that they claimed?
Oh boy, you want to hear some sterile? Unless, of course, this is all the truth.
Oh, this could all be true.
It is entirely possible that he really was making a personal decision to move forward on a different path. I put a tremendous amount of thought into this, and I know deep down in my heart that I want to pursue some original creative opportunity. Bullshit.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. That was kind of mean. I'm sorry. I mean, like, it's possible that like maybe he really didn't want to direct a Star Wars film.
Maybe he actually does really want to actually direct put all his effort into directing into Fantastic Four 2.
Yeah, and maybe he counts Fantastic Four 2 as an original creative opportunity.
I don't know. Like, God only knows what he means. Maybe he wants to make another follow-up to Chronicle, although, I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like, I feel like there's a half to this story that we're not getting.
I feel, and this is, like, it's possible Simon Kinberg just went in, that Disney just asked Simon Kinberg, like, is this fella right in the head or what? And then they walked out of that meeting realizing that he's a live freaking grenade.
It's entirely
ready
possible.
to go drinking or something.
This is all speculation, but
Yeah,
it's
of
just like either Josh Trank has someone out there who is completely trying to assassinate his character, or something weird is going on behind the scenes.
You see, it makes a lot of sense that if all of this was true, right? If it was true, it would completely make sense for Disney to drop him because they don't want to risk it, right? And because there are other directors who could fill a similar role, right?
Yep.
So it would make a lot of sense. I'm just saying it's very hard to believe that he would walk away from an opportunity like this.
Yeah. Well, that being said, it is tying you down for an awful long time.
But it's a one-off film, though. I mean, he could easily make the one-off film and then,
I know, I'm just kind of, I'm theorizing around this thing, trying to figure it out, and fuck knows, I just can't.
Now, speaking of that one-off film, the film that he's walking away from, and this was announced on Star Wars Day, May the 4th, and it will be a Boba Fett origin story. Or at least earlier in his life, anyway.
So, yes to all that, yes and please.
Because Boba Fett, of course, is considered this great badass that was in the original trilogy, but at the same time, he didn't do that much badassery within the thing, did he?
No.
He was kind of cut short by being eaten by the...
well, the thing is, Boba Fett was a helmet.
Yeah.
I'm like, he was only...
He was a symbol.
He was like that Clint Eastwood man with no name thing. It's like, the more you take away personality from a badass, the bigger of a badass he becomes.
Yeah. I think there was a lot of delegating involved in his work, though, wasn't there?
Yeah.
But this is finally a chance for him to live up to all of that hype and everything, you know? And live up, because obviously if he was considered so great, then he must have done something. So hopefully we'll see this something that he did.
Yeah, and by the end of this film, he's basically got to be like Space Terminator.
Yeah, because keep in mind, wasn't it a case that at the start he was supposed to be... there was supposed to be a Boba Fett origin story and a young a young Han Solo film, and of course the young Han Solo film got replaced with Rogue One, which is basically going to be about them stealing Death Star plans.
Neat.
As far as we can tell, I think that's one of the things that popped out. But the Boba Fett one still is going ahead, which makes a lot of sense because, like I was saying, there's a void in his kind of past that is supposed to have a big hype in it, you know?
Yeah, there's a void because he was supposed to be this generic badass.
Yeah.
Yeah. You might want to sit down for this one. A video game film is actually fucking getting made. It's like for the past few years, Halo and Splinter Cell and Metal Gear Solid and a bunch of other video games have been optioned, but now filming on Assassin's Creed is actually going ahead with Michael Fassbender. So Michael Fassbender was being interviewed, and someone started talking about how the film had been through a bunch of delays. And according to Fassbender, the time had been used to develop scripts and work on them, and it was just they really wanted to do it right.
One of the things that I could see being a problem would be the script for a video game film.
Yeah.
Purely because, let's face it, how often do you care about the actual thing and you're just like, yes, I can jump off a building?
Yeah, well, I mean, like...
I get that they actually have a decent plot, but I haven't played it.
Yeah, it's like you can sort of, you put a new formula into it. Like, a video game is a different sort of formula to a film, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but you can apply...
But at the same time, you don't want to go over the same old route.
Yeah, but that's the thing, it's like... You're making roughly the same story. You're jazzing it up with different character flaws and different interpersonal conflicts, but generally it's going to the same place.
So he's going to start filming this in September, is it?
Yeah.
This will, of course, be after he finishes filming X-Men Apocalypse, more likely.
Yeah.
Which he's currently filming, having finished Weightless in a...
Yeah. So basically, expect some like.
And of course he's. And Steve Jobs, man, he's coming out on a lot of big things next year.
It's like, it's almost like Michael Fassbender is one of the hottest actors in Hollywood right now.
Yeah.
That's it, really. It's like, soon you will be looking at footage of Michael Fassbender doing some fucking sick free running.
Lucasfilms, and by extension Disney, have announced that Indiana Jones 5 has been confirmed and will be a thing at some point in the future. That's all we got.
Yeah, that's all there is to this story. They've finally confirmed they're going ahead with it. I think, they're after locking down a cinematographer, Janice Kaminsky, for the project, and that's the extent of what we know, really.
They actually have someone for photography.
Yeah.
All right, I didn't know that part. But last time we heard, anyway, wasn't it the case that Chris Pratt was heavily rumored for the position of Indiana?
Yep.
Or Henry, whatever. And I would be interested to see how they do it, but as long as it's, as long as it's done well and in the spirit of the original tree, and not in the spirit of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which, whatever.
Fridge, aliens.
As in they now, as in the phrase like jumping the shark is now nuking the fridge.
Yeah, it's they managed to supplant jumping the shark. They've made a film that was that fucking bad. It was miserable. But the thing is, now there might be like actual adults at the helm, I suppose. I mean, ever since the Lucas and Lucasfilm is purely aesthetic now.
Yeah, that's true. I'd be interested to see what kind of way they take it. The cast list for Captain America: Civil War is getting bigger and bigger and better by the minute, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because Kevin Feige has now announced that Martin Freeman, Martin Freeman of the Hobbit and Dr. Watson from Sherlock, as well as Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, has been confirmed as being the next cast member for Captain America: Civil War.
Yes.
No news quite yet on what his actual role will be. When's it coming out? April or May 2016?
Yipes, I'm not sure. It's coming out next year.
Yeah, it is. Clearly, anyway, like Martin Freeman was probably, I'd say, the best part of the Hobbit series, wasn't he?
Yeah, there wasn't much going on there.
Yeah, I can see that.
I'm like, they did dress up Evangeline Lilly as an elf, which I appreciated very much.
Yeah, and yet I'm conflicted purely because her and her storyline were not in the book and weren't necessary.
Oh, whereas yes, it was.
Whereas Bilbo was a pretty necessary character. And,
yeah. Well, it's like sometimes you gotta shoehorn an elf in there, man. A really sexy elf.
Okay, that's true. But I think Martin Freeman has definitely got the chops in it, and to really kind of bring it up that next level.
Yeah, I mean,
and also I think it should be pointed out once again, Martin Freeman and Benedict Cumberbatch will be in the same franchise because Cumberbatch is Doctor Strange.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of awesome, actually.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? No news whether or not Doctor Strange will actually be in Captain America: Civil War. I'm hoping not, because it'll be a little bit too cramped if that happens.
Yeah, plus at that stage it'll be quicker to just list off the list of people who aren't in the film.
That's true.
So, adding on to the core of awesome, at the middle of the Magnificent Seven remake, Jason Momoa is going to be joining the team of Antoine Fuqua and Ethan Hawke and Denzel Washington. But
so you could say unite the seven, is it?
Yeah, they're going to be uniting another seven.
Yeah, because
yeah,
that ridiculous poster when he was painted in silver as Aquaman.
Yeah, but it's like he's sort of like The Rock in terms of the way he's built, Momoa. So it's like they have their big intimidating guy now, I guess. With the added bonus that, much like The Rock, he can actually fucking act, of course. I guess Antoine Fuqua gets to watch over another training day. Because there's no doubt that Jason Momoa spends a fuckload of time in the gym.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And
John Wick 2 has another piece of the original team back, as Keanu Reeves is after confirming he is in.
Yeah, this is pretty good news, because I mean, you can't have a sequel without not having Alien, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't exactly say no to another John Wick film,
Definitely not. I mean, John Wick, I feel like they made a very simple story, in a way, and then then they just put a massive amount of stylization on top of
Yeah,
that.
absolutely, yeah.
And on top of that stylization, they put absolutely unbelievable action.
Because the thing is that you say it like that, but they could easily have made it just like, we have a bunch of action films and then we'll string it together as some kind of a plot. But the plot is very much there and is it's a good plot. It's not just a plot that strings along an action, which I would have, of course, still watched it, seeing as that the action was that damn good.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, the plot is essentially that he is really pissed off over his puppy being killed, and he's a man with nothing to lose. I mean, the plot is there with kind of the explicit purpose of creating a sort of human nuclear warhead who is going to rain down destruction.
I think there's more to it than that, because there's a lot of the background is kind of dealt with without dealing with the background and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's dealt with well, and the plot does feel like good.
Yeah, definitely. I am oversimplifying here, but
yeah, of course, everyone, you have to,
Yeah, I feel like they sort of gave they gave very small elements of the background. Like we don't really see his interaction with the wife or figure out what part of him it was that appealed to her and what part of her appealed to him.
We didn't need to see it.
And all of that, yeah. But I think we were given the fact that the relationship exists, but the relationship itself wasn't explored, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think it would have been a very difficult one, because of the fact that he was an assassin and he left that kind of work, and you're like, and there was this whole thing that he felt he didn't deserve her or something,
Yeah.
So yeah, it would have been a tricky one to try and get, whereas it would probably just be easier just to skip it. And also, let's face it, while they're trying to explain that, how many people are going to say, is he going to shoot someone?
Exactly.
Also, I did love the actual use of some members of the cast of The Wire.
Yeah, plus, I mean, the whole cast was phenomenal.
Yeah. The more they can get, you want them to get more people back from the cast, but at the same time, you still want them to bring in more people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Keanu Reeves he's the core of that. Go watch John Wick. There's going to be a sequel, and hopefully it's going to be up to the standard of the original.
Exactly. Hopefully so. It has been announced that John Hamm of Mad Men will star in the Brad Anderson directed, Tony Gilroy written High Wire Act, which is not about the dude who tightrope to walk between the twin towers, but is in fact about a former U.S. diplomat, I should say, who was called back into service in the 1980s to save a former colleague from a group possibly responsible for his own family's death. So this is nothing like that.
Yeah. Okay. If you're like me, this sentence will excite you. Brad Anderson says Tony may have been channeling John le Carre when he wrote this.
Yes.
Yeah, John le Carre being, of course, the famous thriller writer who wrote Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Oh, yeah.
And A Most Wanted Man and The Constant Gardener. Basically, a whole bunch of good thrillers that got made into good films.
And John Hamm is...
Well, no, sorry, good thrillers isn't quite enough to explain how awesome John le Carre is.
But John Hamm, of course, has done great work with Mad Men, and he was also in The Town. And, you could really see him being a person who would be able to persuade people by talking.
Yeah.
Based on his role in Mad Men, anyway.
It's like the one thing, if you put the right words in that guy's mouth, he could persuade you that the sky is fucking black.
Yeah, and and I know that there's been a lot of people who have actually been looking forward to seeing John Hamm eventually actually take over the main role in a film, and this is it now. And it's in pretty safe hands as well, considering that, as we've said, Tony Gilroy is writing it, but also Brad Anderson, who directed the Machinist, the one where Christian Bale lost a ridiculous amount of weight for.
Yep.
He directed that, so
Yeah, he directed that. He directed Session 9, which was it was a really interesting indie. That was 14 years ago, admittedly. And he directed Trans-Siberian, which I think was pretty damn well received. I haven't seen it, to be honest. I should really get around to that.
Yeah. So I'd be, this sounds like a pretty solid project right now.
Yeah, it's like you've got a lot of creative forces in there who I fucking believe in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thus, John Hamm.
Exactly.
So, fans of cult sci-fi film Q, yes, all 4 of you. It's a acquired but awesome taste.
To be honest, even when every time I see the kind of poster for this, I'm like, man, that film looks weird.
Yeah, if you think it looks weird, wait until you see the actual.
It looks
film.
like a Borg fetus on the fucking on the poster.
Okay. But anyway, I don't know what to tell you, fans of Cube. I don't know whether to tell you to be excited or afraid, because Lionsgate is remaking it.
This always has could have weird kind of like repercussions, purely because it could completely make dog shit of the original one, or else it could really give the budget that the original one deserved.
Yeah, I think the original one didn't particularly need any extra budget.
So they're basically going to make shit of this, yeah.
Most likely. You know what Lionsgate made? The Saw films.
Oh yeah.
And Q was massively gory, and I hope to God that they're not trying to make this into a substitute for Saw.
Well, they also made Crank and Crank 2.
Yeah, the thing that I'm nervous about is just that Saw connection in terms of the gore.
Yeah, I think that's actually the more concerning problem.
Because if Lionsgate are focusing on that, this could be not necessarily a crock of shit, more of a cube of shit.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, it could be a clusterfuck. I'm really hoping that something comes out soon to give me some amount of faith in the project, really. Because right now, this just makes me nervous.
Are they still going to use the same director, or are they using a different director?
Different director, up-and-coming director, Saman Kesh. I looked through his profile. He's only done shorts so far.
Yeah, I don't know how this could go so many different ways.
Yeah, I'd really have to look into the director's style to get some idea.
The problem is that the studio could have an approach for it, and they could just decide this is the way it's going to be done, and they're just going to. They could just use the director as a puppet.
They could have Saman Kesh just sit in a room right now with his eyes fucking taped open like in Clockwork Orange, just watching Saw films over and over, so he gets what they're going for. I mean, no. I'm gonna stay positive. This could be awesome. This could be great. They could take this in a whole new direction.
Emphasis on the could.
So we've got one trailer for you this week, and it's a bunch of buildings falling down. I don't know what to tell you. It's the latest trailer for San Andreas.
Look, it's The Rock versus the earthquake. It's The Rock versus an earthquake, right? That's the end of it, right? And I think that basically will tell you everything you need to know about this film.
Yeah, I've got to say,
right?
Special effects look really nice.
Yeah, they probably have to, I suppose. The thing is that it's actually based in a real place, so you'd have to... People would know what it would look like if the thing was falling down.
Yeah, I mean, it's not some Michael Bay, let's shake the camera and then not show very much bullshit.
Do you think this is a weird kind of timing for this to come out?
A weird timing?
Earthquake-wise?
I mean, there's always going to be some disaster out there.
When is it actually coming out?
May 29th.
Yeah, we'll see anyway. So, what do you think of the trailer so far? Of the trailer, anyway?
It's basically what you'd expect from The Rock taking the lead in an action film.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like he's a helicopter pilot, a ridiculously muscled helicopter pilot, and like he's trying to save his daughter from the earthquake. It's
shit is falling down.
Yeah, it's like disaster films like this are so difficult to pull off in terms of plot, but you're probably going to have something nice to look at least.
Yeah, it's just going to be a lot of cool special effects. Yeah.
Effectively, yeah. I mean, I don't feel like there's anything especially mind-blowing here. This isn't, say, Mad Max Fury Road. So, Lionsgate have said Go Power Rangers Go to their first release date for Power Rangers has gotten pushed from July 22nd of 2016 to January 13, 2017. So they have taken it out of summer.
That's kind of weird because it feels like this would be perfect for it. This is, I assume, they're going to use the 15-minute... the 15-minute short, basically, that Joseph Kahn created.
Yeah.
Which starred Katie Sackhoff and James Van Der Beek.
Yeah, I know people really like that short. I never actually got around to watching it.
It was very much... I think the phrase gritty remake is thrown around a lot, but this felt like a gritty adult remake of Power Rangers, and it was it was actually better than expected, like, you know?
Yeah, which is, I mean...
We'll give it a link.
The word gritty nowadays fills me with dread because a lot of the time it just means stripping the personality from something, but...
Well, to be fair, in 15 minutes, what are you going to get?
Yeah,
but it also... There was a case of... But this film will not be directed by Joseph Kahn, who brought that one, because he apparently, when this got offered up, he just decided to turn it down because he felt that whatever film he was going to make about Power Rangers, he made in that 15-minute one, right? And so it will be directed by the most Jewish name of all time, or most Israeli name of all time anyway, Joseph Israelite.
Yeah,
or Dean Israelite, I should say.
Yeah, that's like calling me Fergal Irish. I mean, what's the guy's history again? He did Project Almanac. I'm not quite sure how well that one went down with critics.
Yeah, Project Almanac and the Department of Nothing and Magician.
Yeah, but who knows? I mean, this could be his...
He's basically mostly done shorts outside of... Well, actually, those were shorts as well. So
yeah, he doesn't quite have a breakout yet, I guess.
He's basically done Project Almanac and this. So, I guess we'll see, you know?
Yeah, I mean, we've got even more time to wait to see now, which I guess is a good thing, giving them more time to get the Power Rangers right. Yeah.
In the last few weeks, Josh Whedon has been getting a lot of disgruntled comments or whatever from what he said on Twitter, or from people stalking him on Twitter and threats and stuff, you know, from mostly female groups, wouldn't it be fair to say?
Well, various people who...
Yeah, it's basically because of the way he's written women, isn't it? That's basically one of the main things.
Effectively, yeah.
Well, he's recently deleted his Twitter, hopefully not permanently, but he's basically gone off Twitter now. And this is not because of some kind of threats or anything like that, but in fact, it's basically to concentrate on his writing if he wants to write, you know? So that he's not stuck to the internet, if you will, right?
Yeah, this seems like the best possible reason for it, really.
Yeah, that's a pretty good reason. It's very good because it means that we might get another Whedon film sooner rather than later, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, like,
and what he said is, I just thought, wait a minute, if I'm going to start writing again, I have to go to a quiet place, and Twitter is the least quiet place I've ever been in my life. Yeah, so that's actually pretty decent reasoning to abandon Twitter for a while.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I think when
and especially considering right now he'd be getting a pretty high traffic going in through his Twitter account. Especially, I think he actually deleted it just before just after Age of Ultron debuted.
Yeah. Sometime around then.
So, wise choice by Whedon and
yeah, man. Here's hoping to his next whatever he's doing after Avengers will pop up soon.
Exactly. And if his next project is as good as his last one, I'll be relatively happy. And of course, his last project being Avengers: Age of Ultron, which here goes the review.
Yeah, so first off, take a moment to appreciate that super smooth segue. Right, we're going to be following the same format for the review again, in that first we'll be doing a spoiler-free review where you're totally safe to listen if you haven't seen the film yet, and then we're going to be going hands-on and discussing...
There is no rules.
No holds barred, it's just how we felt about the film. So, starting things off, I guess. We liked it.
Yeah, I mean...
No, that's the wrong tone of voice for the type of like. Like, I really did like the film.
Yeah, I did like it. It kind of... It felt like what we'd been promised, almost, in that it was bigger, but at the same time, it was more personal to that extent, you know?
Yeah, I could see the more personal, yeah.
Which is, I think, something that Whedon had actually said before.
Yeah, in terms of, like, now that he didn't have to figure out a reason to get all these characters in a room together.
Yeah, and it does start off, like, very kind of hands-on, you know, immediately.
Yeah. Like, I mean, we're shown sort of, they have the Avengers at a point where they're completely united at start, really.
Yeah, actually, yeah, that's completely true. And and they were immediately right into the action from the very outset.
Exactly. I feel like that was it was one of the film's stronger points in that it was very dense.
Yeah, there was also a lot of setup for later on as well within that kind of thing.
Yeah, which is
what you want from the start of a film, like.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, you mean set up for later in the film as opposed to set up for later in the franchise? Because I feel like continuity was a lot of the continuity nods. I feel like there might have been a bit too much there.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you there. Like but I think that's kind of the problem, I suppose, with trying to direct and write this kind of film, because it's like a teamed together thing.
Yeah.
Whereas everything else, they'd be on their own and all that kind of stuff for the most part, and then you bring them together and you're like, well, do I or do I not incorporate this stuff?
Yeah, I feel like there was so much writing on this film, and the film didn't work on the macro, but it did work on the micro, and because of that, it sort of worked on the macro.
I see what you're going. Yeah,
Ultron as a villain, I don't feel was given time
I don't think he was given as much time as we would like, but I still think he was. I still think the voice, I think, was perfect. I think James Spader was the perfect person to play Ultron, I should say.
Yeah, like it felt like there was an amazing amount of ideas. It's coming back to that density again, like where in terms of the visuals were spectacular, or a bunch of there was a bunch of jokes that just worked. I guess really, like genuinely, I laughed and I fucking meant it.
I do feel that they kind of shot themselves in the foot by kind of showing stuff, a few too many things in the trailers and stuff.
Yeah, I'm using the fucking word density again.
Because there's a question of like, hang on, where did the spoilers start? Because did they already spoil it beforehand? I don't know, like, you know.
I feel like there was enough in there that they got away with that.
The fact is, it was 2.5 hours long, and the best compliment I can give it is it didn't feel like 2.5 hours.
Definitely not.
Yeah, but because of the fact that it was 2.5 hours long, it meant that even with all these trailers added in, you still didn't spoil it for yourself too much.
Yeah, but it somehow works just because you're continuously being slapped across the face with awesome. I guess, within the vagueness of this part of the review, I think the best thing that we can do is just sort of, I will absolutely recommend this film. I had a blast watching it, really. I mean, it's like, as a film in terms of structure and in terms of trying to say anything beyond pretty noises and watching Elizabeth Olsen as a very sexy witch.
Scarlett, yeah.
Yeah, and Scarlett Johansson as a very sexy secret agent. It's beyond the sort of visceral thrills there. I don't feel like the film it leaves you with a lot to think about.
I feel that while I kind of mentioned how I did like the setups and stuff at the start, I do feel that it was almost, the language thing, the little running joke, was kind of like, it felt a bit more forced than I would have liked.
Yeah, well, it felt forced at the start,
and like there were some very good set pieces as well in the film, and
definitely action very strong. I mean, I've seen a lot of reactions saying that the action was just too fucking much, which I didn't really feel. I just felt, I'm sorry, I can't find another word other than dense tonight.
Yeah, it was packed.
Exactly. I feel like you could watch this 5 times, and every time you notice something a little different. I mean, there was a lot of love.
I think I always knew it was going to be a dense film or packed with action, purely because there was a lot of Avengers there, and you knew from the trailers that how Ultron's forces were going to line up,
Yeah.
So that was never going to be. It was never going to be open field, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So I think just because there was so much in it, like the primary flaw of the film, and it's a small flaw because it didn't really affect my enjoyment of the film, just because if you understand that you're going in for a sort of a...
Let's not pull any fucking punches right now. It's basically a popcorn film.
Yes, very much so. I mean, like, there were some nice bits of philosophy in there, or some nicely phrased philosophy in there a bit. There were some really nice quotables in there that didn't really get developed.
Yeah.
which I feel like that kind of small aspect of the film, it's endemic of the larger problem, that there was so much in there and they were trying to serve so many plot threads that none of it gets served completely.
The thing is, they have to bring them all in together, right? They have to bring all these threads in from all the other all the stories, all the Iron Man stuff, all the Captain America story, Thor story, and the story from, and then they also have to do all the stories that are going to be popping up later.
Yeah,
you know, in phase 3 and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it's very kind of, it was always going to be a tricky one. You know?
Yeah, and I don't feel like they entirely successfully pulled it off as a film. I mean, like, I think they managed to cram all the crap in there.
I think there was a much degree that, like, we have to get X many boxes ticked off.
Yeah.
If you look at that. And I think they got all the boxes ticked off in terms of what they needed to hit. But in terms of, like, if there was less boxes to tick, he might have had an easier job and it might have actually come out better.
I just hope when it comes time for Avengers 3 that they have all those boxes ticked off and they don't feel the need to crowbar a bunch of little cameos in there. That they just make the Avengers 3 an actual proper fucking film.
Yeah, and that'll be the Avengers Infinity War Part 1, Part 2.
Yeah, I think in terms of score though, I'm gonna give this around 7.5 to an 8. It sits somewhere in there.
And I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
So from here on out, spoilers.
Yep, huge gaping spoilers.
Yeah, so maybe you go see Avengers Age of Ultron before you listen to the rest of this episode. But remember to come back.
Okay, so first off, I think you wanted to justify that 9?
Yeah, well, the thing is that there was a lot of good interplay there, right?
Right.
And I think Thor had some of the best lines of the film, right?
Yep.
And I also think that I didn't know whether to consider this a spoiler or not, so that's why I left it until now. But Vision, right?
Yeah.
Now, admittedly, I would have thought that it was brilliant if they hadn't kind of revealed that Vision was going to be popping up. But from the whole moment of the inception of Vision, right, to the actual birth of Vision.
Yeah.
Everything about Vision, I thought was great, you know.
Yeah. I liked the concept of Vision a bit more than I liked the execution of Vision. In that, I wasn't completely convinced with the birth of him, but I actually quite liked him as a character when he was around. Yeah, it was kind of the opposite in a way for me. I really liked that concept of like.
Oh no, I did like the concept of how he was made. Like,
yeah, it's like
that he's one with the Force Stone.
Yeah, it's like him being a fusion, or it was the Mind Stone, I think.
That's what I meant. The Mind Stone. Yeah,
it's like him being a fusion between Robert Downey Jr.'s Robert Downey Jr.'s like computer PA and the Mind Stone was actually really cool. I think Jarvis has always been he's grown as a character strangely, Jarvis.
Yeah, and by the way, what is worth pointing out is that the actor who's playing Paul Bettany, he's playing not only is he playing Vision, but he's actually the voice of Jarvis.
Yep.
So whether or not that was a part of his original agreement or not is a completely different point.
Yeah, but when Vision came into the film, I feel like there was a certain amount of Quicksilver problem in terms of why doesn't this guy just fucking fix everything?
He's so overpowered because he's more powerful. He's the body that Ultron wanted, and you're like, wait, why doesn't he just like?
Yeah,
wait a minute, and then you see at the end what he does with the beam. And you're like, but what?
Yeah, so you could have done that 10 minutes earlier, buddy.
There is another aspect though, is that of the film now, not just Vision.
Yeah.
With it's kind of all the flags that Hawkeye was giving that he was going to die.
Yeah, but then the Quicksilver death I felt like was okay. So they had to kill Quicksilver just because there are two things: you either kill Quicksilver or you gimp Quicksilver.
You feel that he was too overpowered?
Yeah, grossly overpowered.
Yeah, but this is always a problem with Quicksilver because, again, it's the same problem that Days of Future Past had with him.
Or it's like you've got to get him the fuck out of there before he ruins your whole
Spe-
film. But that being said, the twins, I feel like they weren't especially well served.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. Scarlet Witch's like entire personality was that she had an accent.
Yeah,
I think you said that, did you?
yeah, but that was very much. They hate Tony Stark and they have accents. That's about all we learned about them.
They tried to give him a bit of a backstory, which I'll admit was all right. But it's case of, if you've been keeping up with the news, you'll realize that that's the exact thing he doesn't do now. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes
that kind of irked me too.
They just felt so shoehorned.
Yeah, they did. They did kind of feel a little unnecessary, to be fair. Like
Right.
I did think the scenes with them running with Quicksilver running were very cool. Not as cool as the Pentagon scene from Days of Future Past. I still think that one won. But I do think they were still pretty damn cool, you know?
I think giving him an Eastern European accent may have actually increased his cool factor a lot.
Yeah. What I also thought was kind of cool was when Captain America first encounters Scarlet Witch, the way she kind of ghostly reverses her backside out.
Yeah, that was very cool.
Yeah.
And then they sort of never
did that again.
Yeah, but for that one time, it was pretty sick. But just moving back to Quicksilver again, and specifically his death.
More callbacks to earlier things as well.
Yeah, but I feel like because
you didn't see that coming.
Because Quicksilver hadn't been developed so much, I felt like they needed it to be an ape. They built it up as a sort of an apex in the film. Like,
I almost feel it was actually almost because he sacrificed himself for a person who had been given most of the development within this story, and that was Hawkeye.
Yeah,
Hawkeye was given all this development. We all felt there was a significant possibility that he was going to be eaten, die. He was raising so many flags, and then Quicksilver basically saves him and takes the bullet, and so therefore you automatically kind of give a shit about Quicksilver's death.
Yeah, but I mean, like, ultimately, I feel like what that says is, like, underneath it all, Quicksilver is, well, it wasn't even quite at that point. I mean, like, they'd established earlier with this bit where he saves everyone off the train, that, like, Quicksilver, he does have a heroic side to him. Where they said, like, up to that point he had been a sort of a jackass, and then they showed that he does have a moral side to him, which was kind of important for the character. But then this feels like the ultimate way of showing this isn't a bad guy by fucking killing him.
Yeah, I tend to agree there.
Yeah, but it's just he'd been a good guy for about 5 minutes. We hadn't really had any time to bond with the character or any reason to care. Especially,
I think one of the big things is, and that we're going to get more of him because his twin died, because his twin lived. You're going to like see her kind of like reactions and like her development and stuff.
Yeah, which I mean, it was catalyzing for her definitely. But then the issue is, again, that how much development had she been given?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's
but she'll be given development over time, and he'll effectively be given post development because of her. I don't know, like.
Yeah, but I feel
you know what I'm getting at, like.
Yeah. I feel like his death, they felt like it would be a bigger deal to the audience than it turned out being.
Yeah, there was definitely that feel.
Overall, it's just that Quicksilver thing is it's just
there was a lot, like, yeah,
an aspect of the larger. It was
definitely the weaker part of the film.
Plus, there were times when it felt like something went kind of screwy in the editing room. There are a couple of very abrupt jumps. I mean, like, the one that springs to mind is the one where they're planning up on the jet, and all of a sudden, Bruce Banner is breaking Black Widow out of the cell.
Yeah, we don't know what happened there, like, because
Exactly.
apparently there were rumors that Loki was dropped or something from the film, but I
Yeah.
don't know how they could have squeezed Loki in between those scenes anyway.
Yeah, I mean, like it just felt that they got to the edit, and all of a sudden they realized that parts of the film weren't working. They were going to have to fix that.
I think there was probably just a degree of like just jump it, because you may as well just pack in as much as you can.
Yeah,
And if you have 2.5 hours, there's a pointless like giving 5 minutes where he's walking towards the thing.
yeah, but it felt like there was something important in there, or some sequence, or something larger. I just felt like Age of Ultron was altogether broken. Like,
yeah, I could see that.
It was a very entertaining film on the smaller scene by scene level that, as a whole, is completely broken.
Yeah, there was a lot of kind of unnecessary stuff and a lot of disjointed stuff, but I still feel that the stuff that they got right was right enough.
Yeah, I feel like the stuff that they got right was on that smaller level though, and that in terms of plotting, in terms of the overall film, in terms of making us care about these characters really, and kind of just show us that they've changed. I feel like there were a lot of broken links there. Yeah, I feel like there were leads for really interesting aspects of the film, like the Captain America versus Iron Man sort of philosophical debate.
Yeah, there's definitely you can feel it coming, like.
Yeah, and in terms of Scarlet Witch screwing around inside their heads, I feel like that wasn't developed well enough. It felt like there were interesting things that they were very cool on the small level they were used at, but again, just not developed enough. Characters not developed enough. Aspects of the plot not developed enough.
I think there was a degree that they were relying a lot. He was relying a lot upon like stuff we knew from the other films.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, it's very evident that Tony Stark is still suffering from post-traumatic stress.
Yeah. Well, it's. I think it's becoming a little deeper than that now. They're hinting at a slightly deeper aspect to the character, maybe something that was even there before New York. I mean, they have sort of they've developed this industrialist character to the point where he can be that bad guy.
Yeah, I feel, but I think there's a case that it's mostly there's a case that he's really like shook up, still like. His whole mentality has still been changed from the events of New York, from the Avengers, right?
Yeah, it's like the sexy witch said. I mean, like he's basically running on fear that's guiding his decisions now.
Exactly.
Yeah, which I think makes for a really exciting villain if they're going to take that.
Yeah, as in they've got him really well positioned for Civil War stuff.
Yeah, like I think genuinely.
The only thing is that if this had happened in the film, this would have been brilliant for that film. But this was already set up from the first 4 films that he's been in.
Yeah.
Or the first films that he had major part in now.
I think if they can resist stuffing Civil War with a million billion plot threads, and looking at the cast list, I don't know. I feel like that could be a kind of... it's a really interesting dynamic.
What's interesting, though... never mind.
I feel like it would be a genuinely cool character thing. And I'm not sure that there was enough of that in the Age of Ultron, say.
Yeah, I do. I feel what you mean there.
It would be nice to see some genuinely interesting character interaction.
And I think we got a good bit of that. Now we didn't get as much as we got in the first film, admittedly.
Yeah.
But I still think there's more to come.
It's just like the Iron Man Captain America thing is.
It's what the whole thing hinges upon, yeah. The Civil War thing.
But the thing is, I felt like they didn't develop it enough in this film because they felt like they had to do it in the next film, and because there were a number of threads like that, where they're just left not quite
hanging in the air, yeah.
Yeah, they're not quite cut off, and it just leaves Ultron feeling yeah, broken. Very good film, but super broken.
For what it is, I think it's still an incredibly enjoyable film. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's. I think we have sufficiently ripped it apart.
Okay, so thanks for listening to Idiot's Odyssey episode 14, and I've been Owen Murphy, and you can find me on Twitter at OwenM1990.
I'm Fergal O'Connor. You can find me on Twitter at Interspammer. And
you can find the show on both Twitter and Facebook at Idiot's Odyssey, and you can also email us at idiotsodysseypodcast@gmail.com. And thanks for listening.